This is a story called The Little Monsters, Chapter 61. The kids sneak off to the seaside alone. The kids are bored and they don't know what to do with themselves. Then Bumpy has an idea and she says to the others, "Hey, I know guys, why don't we ask our parents to take us to the seaside?" "Yeah, that's a great idea," said Kicker. They all went home and asked their parents if they'd take them to the seaside, but they said no, leaving the kids disappointed. Then Bumpy has another idea. "I know guys, you lot can tell your parents that we're having a sleepover at mine tonight, and I can say that Kicker's having a sleepover. That way we can go to the seaside by ourselves." "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea," said Stumpy. They all went home and told their parents about the sleepover. They got all of their overnight stuff and then they dropped it off at the hideout. They decided that they were going to Scarborough and then they made their way to the train station. On the journey there, they couldn't help playing pranks on the other passengers. When anyone went to sit down, the kids put whoopee cushions on the seats. When they sat on them, they deflated, causing them to make a loud farting noise. When anyone left their seats, they put pink cushions on them, and when they sat on them, they stuck in their bums, causing them to jump up, howling in pain. When anyone got a drink and when they weren't looking, the kids put fart gas in them. When they drank them, all they did was fart. When they got to Scarborough, the first thing they did was go in a cafe and have something to eat and drink. When they'd finished, they made their way to the beach for a bit. Whilst they were at the beach, they went swimming in the sea and built sandcastles. Then they went to the Sea Life Centre to watch a show for a couple of hours. Then they made their way to Scarborough Fair for a couple of hours. When they left the fair, they went to a cafe to have some tea. After they'd eaten, they went in the arcade and stayed there until it was time to go for their train home. That night when they got back, they went straight to their secret hideout and spent the night there. The next day they wanted to go to the seaside again. They all went home and told their parents that they were going to Grumpy's for a sleepover. And Grumpy told his parents that Stampy was having a sleepover. Then they made their way to the hideout to drop their stuff off. They decided they were going to Whitby, and instead of going by train, they went on the coastliner bus. When they got there, they soon realised that there wasn't much to do, so they spent their day on the beach swimming in the sea and in the arcades. When they got back home, they stayed at the hideout overnight. They decided that the next day they were going to Bridlington, but they wanted to stay overnight. They went home and told their parents that Stampy was having a sleepover, and he told his parents that Stumpy was having a sleepover. Then they made their way to the train station. On the train they played pranks on people again. They put toy crabs on their seats, and when they sat on them, they pinched their bums, causing them to jump up, howling in pain. Then they put fat gas in their drinks. When they got to Bridlington, they needed to find somewhere to stay without having to pay for it. They went round the nearest caravan park to the front to see if there was any caravans unlocked and unoccupied. Excuse me. Then, as luck would have it, a family were leaving a caravan with all their belongings, and they dropped the caravan keys on the floor without realising. Creeper creeped up behind them and took them, and then they hid until they were gone. As soon as they were gone, they let themselves in and had something to eat. After they'd eaten, they decided to go to the beach for a bit. When they got there, they swam in the sea and built sandcastles. Then they took their their wet things to the caravan, and then they went to the arcades for a little bit. After they'd been in the arcades for a while, they went back to the beach. Whilst they were there, some people were having a beach party, and they had loads of alcohol. When no one was looking, they took quite a lot and took it back to the caravan. Once they dropped it off at the caravan, they went back and took some more. That night they got drunk and had a ball. The next day they all phoned their parents and told them that Creeper was having a sleepover. And Creeper told their parents that Kicker was having a sleepover. That day after they'd phoned their parents, they went down to the beach. When they got there, there was no one else there but them, and when they looked, there were some wallets on the floor. None of them had any name or anything but money inside. When the kids counted the money, there was over £500 altogether. That day they did all sorts of things, and they stayed in bridge for another 2 days. Every day they rang their parents to tell them that they were going to a sleepover at one of their houses. After they got bored with bridge, they caught the train to Blackpool. On their way there, they played pranks on the other passengers. They put fart gas in their drinks and went round handing out their fart and burp sweets to people. When they ate them, they burped and farted constantly. When they got to Blackpool, they went to find somewhere to stay. They found a caravan that was unlocked and the keys were inside, so they went in. Then they decided to catch a tram to the pleasure beach, and they stayed there all day. After they'd finished there, they went back to the caravan, got changed, and then they went to the tower to see a show. Whilst in the tower, they went right up to the very top, and they couldn't believe how beautiful the view was. When they left, they went for the tram, and whilst they were waiting at the tram stop, someone put some bags down that were full of booze. Then they decided not to get on the tram and walked away, leaving the booze behind. The kids picked it up and took it back to the caravan with them. Again they had a ball, and they went to bed quite drunk and very late. The next day they went to the pleasure beach and spent the best part of the day there. Later in the day they went to the beach, and whilst they were there, there were some people playing volleyball and having a beach party. When no one was looking, the kids took all their booze. Again that night the kids got very drunk and went to bed very late again. They stayed in Blackpool for 4 days, and every day they rang their parents and told them that one of them was having a sleepover. When they'd had enough of Blackpool, they decided to go to Piley. Again they went to find somewhere to stay. All of the caravans were occupied, so they went to see if any of the chalets were empty. As luck would have it, a family was just leaving one. They locked the door and left the keys in the lock on the outside. As soon as they were gone, the kids let themselves in, and they stayed in the Piley for 2 days. Then they went to Primrose Valley, but they only stayed for 1 day, and then they went home. Of course, their parents didn't have a clue that they'd been at the seaside for the last week or so. They just thought that they were at sleepover at each other's houses. The kids plan to do the same thing again sometime soon. The end. Thanks for watching, guys.